This wash is mostly burnt sienna and quinacridone magenta. This is what the wash looks like when it's wet, and then here it is when it dries. I dried this background with a hairdryer just so that the paint doesn't spread into the background. There are times when I want that effect to happen, and this is not one of them because I want to create some hard edges with this jar. I use a variety of colors to represent this jelly. There's reds in there, magenta, and I also mix up some darker purples. The gesso board was supplied by Ampersand. I like painting in this style on those boards because it's kind of like painting on hot press watercolor paper because it's nice and smooth. The background isn't dark enough, so I put another wash down of burnt sienna. Sometimes it takes multiple layers to get the background as dark as I want it to be. The basic strategy here is that I create like a wash around the shapes, and whatever happens in that background shape, it doesn't really matter to me. I want it to look kind of like it's flowing or have some sort of loose brushwork in there. I started putting in the opaque color of the knife. It's a good idea to put in some of the lighter areas of the painting so you can judge how dark the rest of the painting should be. This is the lid. I figured it's time to put in some of the dark shadow areas so it will help define the shape of it. And I might as well go into the shadow area of the knife while I have this dark paint on my brush. I didn't add any text or graphics to this label. I thought it would be too distracting to include that. So I just put in a wash of like reds, and then I add some ultramarine blue to make it a little bit duller and darker, just so the whole label isn't entirely like bright red. That'd be a little bit too much. The label also extends onto the other side of the jar. Putting in some darker color around the bottom of this background, and I try and soften the edges. I feel like the whole background needs to get darker. And this is one of those moments in a painting where you have to paint over something that you like in order to make the painting move forward. And that's the thing that happens is you paint something and you like the look of it, and then you find that you avoid that area because you don't want to ruin it. But you have to ruin it sometimes just to move it forward, and that's what I'm doing here. I like those washes, but this background has to go darker. It's not like I'm ruining it either. A lot of that washy stuff shows through in the final painting, and it does help. Another thing that I did here is that I use a wet paintbrush to lift up some of those dark additions to let the undercolor show through. Here's the finished painting. It's 8 by 10 inches, and I put a coat of gloss varnish on there so it's nice and glossy. If you're interested in purchasing the painting, the auction starts at $5. There's a link in the description.